woke up in the top 10 today, and the deck I can credit the most for that ranking over the course of this season has been the same. Let's take a look at it and see what we can learn from the fact that this deck has been my best deck the entire season. I have been waxing poetic about the power of points and tech packages this season, but I think a lot of that is down to the power of this deck being so viscerally clear to me when I play it. One of the things that I enjoy the absolute most about this is the full control that an Invisible Woman in your deck gives you over priority. Now, normally a deck like this can be countered by decks like Bounce or Hela that are able to meaningfully concentrate their power in one lane and then play outside of that lane on the final turn of the game in a way that you don't have real answers for. If you were sort of misled by the matchup into playing in multiple lanes and they stack one lane, well, they don't have priority on the final turn of the game. The only card that's really going to help you in situations like that is Invisible Woman. And what she'll do is she'll let tech actually still take effect after the final turn of the game. That is what she is here to do. Also, you kind of just like being able to play a 2. You do have to be pretty cautious with her. You don't want to lock yourself out of locations that you would otherwise be able to play things like Gwenpool and Sera and actually have active abilities there. But generally speaking, mostly she's just a pretty good play. You say, I'm not going to play there for a little bit, and then you let yourself just do whatever it is that you want to do. Note that a Hit Monkey placed under Invisible Woman will reveal on turn 6 and will count the cards you played on turn 6, but it will not count cards that were placed under Invisible Woman on previous turns as cards that were played on turn 6. That interaction is actually quite important. Now, the baseline that this deck is trying to achieve is output enough points that it'll still win when its tech cards aren't doing enough, and then when its tech cards are relevant, you're going to have such overpoweringly favored games that don't really look like overpoweringly favored games. The main thing that this deck does is weaponize the fact that it's not really doing a lot early into a winning position late. So much of this deck is investing in what's in the hand. You have Bishop, which is triggering off of cards in your hand. You have Gwenpool, which is putting power into your hand. And you have Sera, which is making it easier for you to deploy the power in your hand onto the board. That is your basic idea of what a good game looks like. You want to be doing things that maximize, and everything in this deck is built to do this, your turn 6 impact. Which means this is a deck that, even though I play at the highest levels of the game and people kind of know what's up, it does have some inherent value where people feel like they can snap you, and they actually just can't because of how strong your turn 6s are. To me, this is a deck that really stresses the fundamentals of Marvel Snap. This is a deck that has been around since the beta. We have been doing stuff like this for longer than the game has been in public release, and it has still remained strong. That's actually the second thing I wanted to talk about here. I'll do it in brief here, maybe a little bit more at the end of the video, but it is notable that decks like this have been the same, whereas the questions they're answering, as this is a deck full of answers, have changed dramatically over the course of the game's existence. I think it might be a real argument that having this deck be as consistently good as it is, for as long as it has been, is actually bad for the game. These are cards that have remained roughly the same. None of them have gone really too far from what they originally were. Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Killmonger, those are all basically the same cards. And Sera, of course, is now exactly what she was in the beta at 5/5. The rest of this stuff, like, there's some new stuff happening here, don't get me wrong, but it ain't that new and it ain't that exciting. Meanwhile, Marvel Snap has been hard at work making all sorts of really exciting questions for this deck to answer, like, check out my giant Dormammu, oh oops, it got Shang-Chi'd, whoops. And I do think that this deck being this good this late into Marvel Snap's life is indicative of something, and it's kind of up to you to determine whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. With all of that said, let's jump in to the card-by-card breakdown. Shadow King may not always be the most impactful card in Marvel Snap, but his opportunity cost is so low and his upside is so high. There are many things that gain green power in many decks, even this deck, and you're going to need Shadow King to deal with them. But more than that, There are just a bunch of different things that this guy is able to answer, to deal with. He can reset your things if they get afflicted, for example. You can put him under an invisible woman and then put a hit monkey after so that he reveals first if you're worried about stuff like that. There's just a lot that this card is functionally able to do at 2 cost, and when you're a deck that relies on discounting the way that we do, 2s are a really good place to put impactful swing cards. If we had more tech cards at 2, this deck would be even better because Sera would discount them by a full 50%. Being able to get massive impact out of 1 energy is just really, really, really baseline powerful. This is a card that can swing lanes on its own. Like, you can win a lane on a Shadow King, and it costs 2. And that's just really all that needs to be said about the guy. Surge is, I think, at this point, a very underrated part of all of these decks because, yes, it is not doing an amazing amount of stuff, but what she does do is just make things happen in the sense that, like, every point of power that you get out of a Surge really matters. Now, to be clear, this is not a wonderful Surge deck because a lot of the time you, like, Surge on 2, and then if you have something like Bishop, Gwenpool, Sera in hand, it often becomes preferable to just do that instead of actually getting anything out of the Surge. But she's just good enough that you are very willing to play her anyway. You get an extra discount onto something, right? Even if you don't actually end up playing the card and getting the Surge chain going. So like an extra discount putting Shang-Chi to 3. That's usually like a low roll in a lot of other decks. But then you play a Sera and you have a 2/4 Shang-Chi. And it's just like, oh, that's actually just really good. And it frees up my turn 5 or my turn 6 to include more stuff. And that just puts a lot of power on the board. Invisible Woman is the source of all the tricks here, and she's what makes this deck well-rounded. Like, you can beat Hela with Invisible Woman Shang-Chi stuff. It's not overwhelmingly reliable, but you can do it. Whereas every other version of every deck like this cannot beat that matchup in a million years. You can beat Move Bounce with Invisible Woman Shadow King, Invisible Woman Shang-Chi, Invisible Woman Killmonger especially, or Invisible Woman Shadow King and Killmonger. All of that's possible only down to her, because every other time a competent Move Bounce player, they're not going to have priority and your tech cards aren't going to happen. But this is what gives you the ability to beat a competent Move Bounce player. And it's what makes this deck so very, very strong in terms of having a well-rounded matchup spread. Without Invisible Woman, a lot of the points in tech decks do get eaten alive by certain combo decks. With Invisible Woman, you have answers to several of them that otherwise simply would not exist. Now, I know people are going to ask, why not Ghost? Other than the cost being 3 and this Invisible Woman's cost being 2, you can play Invisible Woman on the final turn of the game. You don't have to let them know. Like, if there's a Move Bounce deck, they're gonna snap you. And then you'll be able to final turn Invisible Woman Killmonger them, and they're going to be blown out when their 40 power Human Torch goes away. That's the kind of stuff that Invisible Woman gives you that no other card in the game will do. Merlin is another card like Surge, where he's here because he's good and there's not that many good 2s in this archetype, right? Like, we just like having cards that make other cards that are easy to play so that we have other stuff to do on our Hitmonkey turns if we don't get to Sera. But like, when you think about what this deck's nut draw is, it's very often like Bishop, Gwen, Sera. And in the world where you play Merlin, Bishop, Gwen, Sera, he is actually going to block your hand, and there are going to be a bunch of 1s in your hand that aren't necessarily going to be the most useful. This is a deck where I think he is actually kind of at his worst, but still being worth running. But if you don't have Merlin, like, you could try an Iron Patriot even. Just, like, something. You could probably do a lot in this space. I think Merlin's quite good, and we run him because he is quite good. But I don't necessarily think this is a requirement for the deck to be functional. Mysterio is sort of the key to how this deck functions. There are both Bishop and, of course, Hitmonkey that scale off of cards played. Mysterio counts as 3 cards played, and then when Gwenpool buffs Mysterio, Mysterio passes those buffs on to his clones. So with 1 Gwenpool buff, he's a 2/8. With 2 Gwenpool buffs, he's basically Doctor Doom for 2. And that's just a pretty ridiculous thing to have access to. I misspoke. With 1 Gwenpool buff, my bad, he's a 2/10. With 2 Gwenpool buffs, he's bigger than Doctor Doom at 2/16 because of the way he passes those buffs onto his teammates, as it were. This is a large part of why you're playing the card, because even if you don't hit the Gwenpools with it, being able to Mysterio on the final turn alongside a Hitmonkey under a Sera, you're basically looking at a ton of points plus 3 energy remaining for either a Shang or Enchantress, and that's your baseline thing that you want to do. You want to do Bishop, Mysterio. You want to do Bishop, Gwenpool. Gwenpool hits all of them on the Mysterio. She will never do this, by the way. It just will not happen. Sera, and then final turn, Mysterio Hitmonkey tech card, or Mysterio Hitmonkey something that got buffed, and you just have a billion points and the removal of whatever their game plan is. It's a very powerful thing to be doing, and since it's not on the board the way other Mysterio decks might be doing it, like Mysterio Sasquatch, for example, you end up having just so much range in your hand that your opponent just like, okay, well, if they got 2 buffs on the Mysterio, I guess I'm dead. I guess I just have to play around them only getting 1 buff on the Mysterio. Stuff like that's just really difficult to actually do. Bishop, he's big. He has synergy with Mysterio. That's really it. You just play him out there and then you play cards. Notably, if you have cards under Invisible Woman, Bishop will not see them until the end of the game. So you can stack cards under Invisible Woman and effectively bank buffs on Bishop if you're interested in doing that. Doing something like Invisible Woman into a couple cards into like Gwenpool, Sera everywhere else, or like Invisible Woman into a 3, Gwenpool, Sera everywhere else, means that you can actually play Bishop on the final turn of the game, and he'll be reasonably big. He won't be Hitmonkey big, but he'll be reasonably large. This guy's a big part of your points package. Obviously, scales off Mysterio, scales off of playing cards. You have a bunch of cards that are able to allow you to play more cards. This guy is going to be 9 to probably about 16 a lot of the time. Like 9 to 15 is kind of the range you're looking at most of the time, where it's just like, this guy's big. He's the largest single point allocation in the deck, short of Shang-Chiing something even bigger, and he's pretty cheap when it really comes down to it. I've already explained the Invisible Woman shenanigans that you can get up to with this guy. It is a complex interaction that honestly trips me up sometimes, but ultimately it does add to his power. Just keep in mind, there are going to be people who are like, if you put this under Invisible Woman, there are going to be people who are just like automatically going to be Cosmoing or Eliathing that lane. So be careful about it. Sometimes I don't put him under Invisible Woman, largely to make sure that I am not vulnerable to that stuff. Invisible Woman Killmonger destroys a shocking amount of decks. It means that you don't even have to be careful about priority if you have access to this. There are a lot of decks that are just like a bunch of 1-drops. Every V-hand deck is mono 1-drops. They will try to throw priority because they expect you to be a Killmonger deck. They don't expect you to be an Invisible Woman Killmonger deck. And if you Invisible Woman Killmonger a V-hand deck, you're killing like probably 2 demons and a bunch of arrows, all of which are getting buffed by V-hand. It's basically impossible to lose. And so you end up with a card that not only is dominating V-hand matchups, it is dominating like move bounce matchups. There are just a lot of good things that Killmonger can do. And that is just a very coherent argument to run a card. He does a ton of work. You know him, you hate him. He might even be the unofficial mascot of Marvel Snap at this point. Shanger Banger is here to Shang Bang all over your 10 power cards. He removes them, they go away. You probably win that lane. He's very good. 4/6 is such a major stat line for Enchantress to have because I mean, it's like if you accidentally get some Gwenpool buffs on her, she just becomes like a legitimately kind of lane-winning body on points rather than just being like a card you only play for the effect. And that's a really powerful thing for her to be. Like, it's obviously good that your tech card is also, in a pinch, going to be useful in the matchups where its text is not useful just because there's good numbers on it. Great card, very highly recommended. Gwenpool is a phenomenal buff card, and especially in the wake of the Galacta nerf, is shining a little bit more than she previously was, but I was playing this deck before the Galacta nerf happened. I think it's just still a great package for Gwenpool specifically that is more her niche than it is Galacta's, even when Galacta had a bigger number on her. Being able to get these Mysterio buffs really matters. Galacta's buff doesn't work well with Mysterio. Gwenpool's buff works amazingly. And it really does just come down to that. The power is in your hand. They don't know where it is, what it's going to be, and where it's going to be going. So your final turns of various buffed cards end up being very hard to play against. Gwenpool fits this ethos better and has more synergy with Mysterio. I don't know how many people know this. The avatar, like, that I use on YouTube, my, like, content creation face on Twitter, is me as Flaviano Sera. Sera has been, like, my girl the entire time this game has been out. I remember when the actual cards were acquired on the track in, like, increments that ever expanded continuously. Sera was the number one card that I wanted while I was progressing through Series 3. She has always been doing this, and while I do think that that is a cool thing, the larger question that is raised for me is like, Sera, Enchantress, Shang-Chi, Killmonger, all of that stuff has been around the whole time. It's been doing this the whole time, and nothing has really displaced it. It hasn't been like, oh, okay, well, here's a clearly better version of any of these cards. They're like sort of maximally about as good as a card is allowed to be. Meanwhile, the power of threats is continuing to rise, but the answers stay static, which means that the game feels more stale. If the same answers decks are good regardless of what the threats are, that's probably not a good thing for the game long term. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. We're about to jump into some gameplay. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I, of course, have been KMBest. You have been phenomenal, and I will see you in the next one. Worst case scenario, we just lost it. Fucking bullshit, but I feel like I'm so bad at winning those, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel like I've lost every 50-50 today. Because, yeah, just like, if it goes middle, we're good. Like, it's not even like we could have done anything about that. It just is what it is. Like, we put that middle, but I don't know if it was right for us to put that middle, honestly. Bro, how smashed are you? Oh, the other guy. We Stone Splash in V-Hand decks. It eventually got a little bit overshadowed, but it's not the worst deck you've ever seen. It's just, where does this go? Answer was, it was technically going to be a tie if I put it mid, I suppose. Oh, no, the death, yeah. No, we got the right lanes that time, I think. We got the right lanes that time, I think. Which one did they get? Meow. 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 Hello. Okay. I've got a hand I mostly like. Yeah, you can stay. You're a good girl. You only need Sera, right? I don't know if that's true. Kinda is now. No snapback? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, so how do we handle this? I don't think we do IW Shang-Monger because I think he has a Juggernaut. But I'll do this. I think it's this. Look at the kitty. Oh, what a cutie. dude. I need my hand. Sorry. She lick. Kitty. Ah, okay. So just some weird shit going on here. I think I just snap and say whatever happens, I'm winning Kiln. And then however big their thing is, I can Invisible Woman Shang it. Like, there's not a card I can draw that doesn't win Kiln here. There goes the Bucky. Goddamn. Holy shit. That's actually so ass. I'm blown away. A legitimate absurdity. That is, in fact, the one card. I'm literally saving the SK because it's more valuable as a zero-cost guy that does this. How fucked is that? Holy hell. Wait. Fucking Nico. Everything shit on me here. Oh, they don't even need to do that. They don't realize what happens here. Their Dormammu dies to their own ritual. Yeah. Yeah, they blew it. I mean, we had this whole thing covered. It was irrelevant. Don't worry. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't irrelevant. No, it was irrelevant. Dormammu goes back to 9, right? Dormammu goes back to 11 or whatever the fuck. We Shadow King it, and then we just, like, hit Monkey for a billion. It was irrelevant that they fucked the Dormammu play, but they did. But it's been pretty smooth sailing ever since we did, so who can say, really? We just beat a Dormammu deck despite our own SK getting hit by 10 power of Krakoa, which is fucking unreal. We played some of that. It's like fine. It's like a deck, but I don't think it has like legs. You know what I mean? Just realized that they're gonna blow up my Invisible Woman if they want. That's horrifying. Oh, good. It's the good one. Okay, solid. Meow. Meow. Hi. Hello. Shadow King just literally cannot stop. It's actually insane. This fucking guy. He has no ability to stop. Alright, so... one... Then we... Omniversal that one. Now we go one... Then maybe... Bishop here? Maybe that? I can't be sure. Maybe it's just one in this. I think it's that. Oh, yeah. So, are we dead? Extremely? Yes? We're extremely dead? Maybe the most anyone has ever been dead? Idea. Wait, we still lose? Yeah, actually, I don't know. They have 12 on the left, correct? How big is our guy? I think we win. Holy shit. I think we actually just win, right? Yeah. And then this is Shadow King, which takes their shit to Tiny, and then a Hit Monkey that wins the game. What it do, baby? Yeah, just Shang-Chi the Nimrods, dude. The fuck? You think I'm stupid? Just Shang-Chi the Nimrods. Like I'm a fucking idiot. Come on now.